Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Become a Villain in High School DXD Part 11. Before we start, please go support RageRevan for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Alternate one-shot. Ending the factions permanently. This alternate one-shot is basically an alternate path Issei had taken had he not decided to force the factions to surrender Nyx to him. He decided to free her himself. Issei looked at the factions that have armies. He had a bored expression on his face. He knew the reason why they were there for him. It was because he had committed several cardinal sins and broke faction laws as well, according to them. But in reality, they just want an excuse to get him back on their side. The factions present were the biblical factions Devil, Angel, Fallen Angel Norse, Yokai, Shinto, Greek and Vampire faction. One must be wondering how did this happen? Let's backtrack for a while. Now Issei Haidu, upon discovering the book, managed to seal Trihixa, but like always his brother took the credit. After which, he decided to free Nyx with Hades and Persephone's help, after which he decided to spend the night with the primordial goddess Nyx, which broke a lot of laws set by the factions, cause apparently you cannot be with a goddess. Additionally, Issei had also removed the boosted gear from the sacred gear system by stealthily entering the heaven and subduing Gabriel, knocking her out. He followed up by using unknown dictator to modify the sacred gear system without anyone realizing, removing the boosted gear easily. This was on the request of his best friend Drake and made sure to do so. But he did not stop there. He decided to create chaos in the factions by revealing Dai's truth and forced his brother to confess his deeds by torturing him in a specialized bubble. Crom additionally helped him by exposing Dai to everyone by revealing his memories, after which this caused even more turmoil between the factions. This resulted in a few after events. The girls that had fallen for Dai were devastated and horrified by his truth being revealed. They loved him, but he turned out to be a fraud and a disgusting being. Many were crying endlessly upon hearing the truth. The faction leaders were furious and angered by being deceived by the false pillar. They wanted him dead. The warriors and the people that looked up to Dai were horrified by his reality that their faction pillar really was. Issei then killed Dai in front of everyone, even his own parents and younger sister, and walked away to live his life with Nyx. But the factions wanted him back and had charged him for several crimes. Now we get to the present time, where Issei is looking at the faction leaders and their armies. Sekiruuyetei then declared seriously. Issei Haidu, you have broken several laws of the factions and performed unlawful acts against us. For that you will be punished. Issei scoffed at the Crimson Satan's attitude. He knew the real reason he was here. He could care less what the factions think of him at this point. If he is a criminal, then so be it. You are just here because I chose Nyx, the primordial goddess of darkness, as my mate, then your spoiled brat of a sister, Ria's were Emery. Issei spoke with a mocking tone, causing Sekiruuyetei to grit his teeth in fury, as several of the gods stepped it. Issei then mocked them as well. Oh, and don't get me started on all you great gods. You all were fooled by a mere boy who had delusions of a grandeur. The mere fact that he was able to fool any of you shows how far the divinity has fallen. The gods present were enraged upon this accusation, especially some that were known to look down upon humanity. Gods or goddesses like Artemis, who hated men, now despised Issei. You damned human, first you break our rules, and then you sleep with Nyx. You will pay for this, you damned man thing. Issei's one eye was raised up. He was barely intimidated by a goddess's words. He only gave a grin towards Artemis, angering her even further. Is that the best you can come up with? Just mind your business. No wonder they like you only for your body. Your personality sucks. Issei spoke with a shrug, as Artemis was holding her bow in anger. Issei had his book on standby, preparing for any possibility. He has all sacred gears needed to deal with the gods. Just surrender yourself, brat. You are surrounded. The one who spoke was Zeus. In a haughty tone, Issei shook his head and responded. And here I thought Riser was arrogant. Geez, you supernatural just exceed my expectations. In every way. Issei spoke with a mocking tone, causing the leader of Olympus to clench his lightning bolts with anger. His body crackled with electricity. I heard that, Riser exclaimed. He did not understand whether that was an insult or a compliment, but nobody responded to him. Meanwhile, Issei mocked Zeus by speaking. Ooh, I am so scared. Zeus and Artemis were exploding with anger as Issei, with Issei finally speaking. Maybe try checking that pride of yours. We have a womanizer and a man-hating whore. No wonder you guys have 0 followers left, unlike some of the other pantheons. That's it. The gods finally snapped as the two, that being Zeus and Artemis, as Zeus fired his lightning blasts and Artemis fired her light arrows, which caused massive amount of explosion which engulfed Issei's current position. Artemis had a smirk on her face, happy that he was gone. Artemis, Lord Zeus, we needed him alive. Who knows where the boosted gear is? Sekiruuyetei responded angrily, to which Artemis scoffed. She could care less about Issei. Sekiruuyetei and the other gods looked at the scene with worry. They hoped that he would have survived. Artemis had a smirk, seeing that the man that she did not like, under any circumstance, dead. However, as she looked at the smokescreen, someone tapped her shoulder. Artemis looked around to see Issei as he spoke. Hello. Before Artemis could respond, Issei socked her in the jaw, sending her flying to the ground. Everyone was ready to fire their attacks at Issei, who only had a small smirk on his face. He jumped in the air and was cloaked in a blinding light. Now he was in a different armor, which was not like a balance breaker, but something else. It seemed to be a combination of the juggernaut drives of both the boosted gear and the divine dividing. The aura radiated from the gear was enough to even make gods look and worry, they knew very well. Issei did not hesitate and dashed towards Zeus, grabbing him by the leg and slamming him to the ground. Zeus was groaning in pain, and he looked up to see a blur heading towards him. He soon brought out a familiar-looking longinus that would terrify them to no bounds. Issei then chanted, "Balance breaker. Polar night longinus Chakravartin." Several orbs were surrounding Issei. He made sure to make it the same color, preventing them from recognizing it. He commanded one of the orbs to trigger an explosion, to which the gods reacted by creating a barrier. However, that was not Issei's intention. "Wait, my powers." Gabriel spoke with worry. It was not enough for Dai to betray her, now Issei has done some serious crimes. She did not understand why he opposed them even now that he is finally recognized. "Mine too, I feel like it is gone," Seraphol commented. The turmoil that her faction had caused was too much even for her to handle. One by one several people started to speak that they had lost their power. Ajuka and Azazel noticed that they were all female, even those that were smart like Athena and Elmenhold realized this as well. The realization soon dawned on them. That was a Tiratana. Ajuka spoke with horror. The females present among the leaders and armies realized what this meant, meaning that they were powerless to do anything. Fear started to rise among the goddesses and female Satan-class beings, as they were as powerless as a regular human being. The girls that harassed Issei the most were affected the most, becoming terrified of someone that would have otherwise loved them. Issei, on the other hand, had a sinister grin on his face, with him speaking. "So you figured it out, huh? Shame you failed to do so when Dai fooled you." Though Issei spoke with a mocking grin as Ajuka looked at Issei, his expression had a mixture of anger and shame inside of it. Issei was right again, as he continued. "Well, you all were finding a way to take me down, for breaking your so-called laws." Issei spoke with a mocking tone, as many of the people present were helplessly watching Issei mock them. They were livid with the gods, believing that they were superior to dragons, not knowing that Issei was a dragon god that can kill them in many creative ways. Issei looked at their expression and continued to explain. Seeing your expression makes me even more happy. Now getting back to what happened, I sensed your forces. You had at least a portion of them as female, and several don't have hand-to-hand combat experience, which, well, yes, is useless in your eyes due to magic. Just taking that away leaves you nothing short of sitting ducks." Issei spoke while sinisterly grinning towards his opponents while the fear increased. He then continued. "Worst case scenario, I only took down a portion of your army. Optimal case scenario, I took down 50% of your fighting force, and best case scenario would be taking down majority of your forces. Now let the real fight begin." Issei's body started to glow red and white with power as he blitzed towards Riaz as he spoke. "And I just know who to start with." Issei grabbed the Gremory princess by the throat and slammed her to the ground. Her body bounced up with which she had the look of fear in her eyes. Surziches and her loved ones shouted her name. But Issei was quicker. With his spear, he stabbed her in the heart. She had a look of horror as Issei removed the true longinus from her heart, killing her. Nuo Surziches shouted with despair seeing his sister die. Even the Lucifer peerage along with her family, they clenched their fists in anger, but before they could make their move, Issei turned his attention to rest of her peerage, along with Dai's former peerage, who had a look of fear. "It's time to repay you girls with every single action you have performed against me," Issei declared as the true spear generated a concentrated beam of holy energy, which was potent enough to even take down a Satan-class being. The factions look in horror as the Issei wiped out an entire peerage without any effort or mercy. Nothing was left of them, only ash. Issei had killed them all. Their loved ones, that being Baraquiel, Griselda, and those that were friends with the Gremory peerage, were crying seeing them dead. Griselda clenched her fists in anger when she saw Issei kill her ward Zenobia. He did not even show mercy to Ingvald, who was among the victims that he had killed, since she was formerly a part of his peerage. He saw her despair look as he had killed. She was regretting and guilty for her past treatment, but Issei could care less. He twirled his spear and spoke coldly. "Who's next?" Several looked at him in either anger, fear or hatred. Issei kept boosting his abilities constantly as Griselda shouted. "You bastard, you dare use." Griselda was unable to complete her statement as Issei blitzed towards the helpless queen of Gabriel's brave saints, and he had sliced her in half before anyone could react. They knew one thing, he was Irina was crying seeing this. Her childhood friend becoming this cruel, vindictive and merciless was something that would terrify her for a very long time. However, before she could comprehend, Issei commanded one of the orbs that being Perine Karatana as it disintegrated the angel without any mercy. Issei smiled, seeing this level of death and destruction, as he looked around to see many magic circles aimed at him. They fire their attacks at them, as a multitude of energy beams are aimed at Issei, which comprised of several magic circles, like fairy, Nordic, Greek, demonic, holy, Shinto and Senjutsu, but several of the attackers that had lost their loved ones channeling their strongest attacks at Issei. These included Surziches and his family, Kuroka and her team, Baraquiel, and several more that did that. They intended to kill Issei. However, Issei used another one of their orbs Maniratana and aimed it at the Greek and Norse gods. The combined attacks annihilate the Greek and Norse gods, leaving only a select few survivors remaining. Nuoden shouted seeing his wife Frigg and his son Vidar die to the attack. Amongst the other casualties, Zeus looked at Issei with anger and hatred in his eyes, knowing that Hera was one of the victims that had perished from the attack. Don't look at me like that, I did not harm the factions in any way until this fight. You caused this mess, like seriously just leave me alone, you do your business, and I do mine but no, you couldn't do that, now could you? Many were angry at Issei's words, he had already killed many of his tormentors in cold blood, showing no empathy or mercy for any of the ones that attacked him. Surziches angrily shouted in response, he hated that Issei was able to use their own attacks against them. Then you should have let yourself be surrendered, you damned monster. Issei shook his head as he mocked him, looks like the grief of losing your sister is affecting your mental state, good. Issei ignored his expression and responded coldly, but regardless, you won't listen would you? I mean, you blindly listened to die, literally became dogs on a leash for him, and now look what has happened. Issei's tone then changed into a sad one, he genuinely expressed his sadness as he spoke. Truth be told, I never wanted this level of death and destruction, I wanted myself to have a peaceful life, with my mate Nyx, and my true family to live happily and have a normal family life. Issei's anger started to increase remembering his past suffering, as he had a small smile on his face, but that is too much to ask, isn't it? Issei remembered on how the people in front of him made his life miserable, he dashed towards Zeus and grabbed him by the head, before he could react. Issei kept slamming him to his knee, breaking his face, he broke several of his teeth and chin, which was completely cracked. Zeus staggered behind, as Issei dashed towards him. He broke his ribcage with a well-timed enhanced punch, coupled with penetrated him. Zeus coughed out blood, as Issei generated flames that belonged to Drake. He was burned alive, screaming in pain. Aya please mercy Zeus screamed in pain, as Issei walked away ignoring him. He walked towards Athena and Artemis, the last remnants of Olympus as he spoke. Aren't you going to do something to save your father? He saw some of the water and ice magic users trying to use their magic to weaken the flames, as he saw the tears in the girl's eyes. They were beyond livid that Issei mercilessly killed them all without hesitation. Issei looked at them and smiled in response. You scum, why do you hate us so much? Artemis spoke with anger, to which Athena responded with an equally sad and yet angry tone. Is it not obvious? He wants revenge for our treatment towards him. Issei shook his head and responded. You're close Athena, but at the same time, I told you I never wanted revenge, all you had to do was leave me alone, this is a consequence of your actions. If anything, I am defending myself. Issei dashed towards Athena as she blocked with her staff, however Issei used one of his orbs, that being Kakeratana, as he destroyed her weapon, leaving her completely defenseless. No, Issei grabbed Athena by the hair, as he dragged her across by the hair, destroying her face completely. He dragged her across the field, while Artemis watched helplessly. Some of the devils tried to fire their magic attacks, however they were worried that it may be redirected towards them back. Issei picked her up in the air and used compression divide, completely crushed her into nothingness. She desperately tried to escape the crushing divide, but sadly failed to do so. Artemis watched in horror, the man she hated Issei even more, but now feared him. Issei turned around to see Artemis shaking, it was clear that everyone that she cared for is dead. Tears stemmed down from the eyes of the goddess of the moon. Such a beautiful face, such a hot beauty, yet such a rotten heart. Issei spoke, as he walked towards her, several aimed their magic circles at Issei. However, Issei only responded with Maniratana as he controlled the magic and aimed it at Artemis, causing her to scream in pain. Artemis looked at Issei, who redirected the attacks. The ones that attacked Issei were helpless, he can control any sort of magic towards his enemies. They are helpless, as Issei walked towards Artemis. Please kill me, I beg you, I have no reason to live. Issei walked towards her, he was not going to show any mercy anyway, as he spoke. Of pleasure Issei created some god-slaying magic and disintegrated Artemis, light engulfed her entire body as she closed her eyes. She accepted her fate, with her mentally wondering what is for her in the afterlife. Issei closed his eyes for a moment, after which he turned towards the survivors, with Odin, Thor and Frey looking at Issei with hatred and anger yet fear. He walked towards him as Thor swung his Mjolnir multiple times as he threw it at Issei, who blocked it with his hands. How can this be possible? Gods should be superior to dragons, this is impossible. Thor spoke with shock as Issei shook his head and spoke, really Thor, didn't you forget that I was the one that defeated Loki, so I should be able to wield this without a problem, right? And I literally destroyed an entire pantheon of your so-called gods. You are an idiot if you think you gods are stronger. Issei crushed Mjolnir into some rubble as he walked towards Thor. Thor clenched his fist in anger as he flew in the air with electricity crackling from his body. He shouted in fury, "Hi-ow!" to Issei only laughed as he divided his strength multiple times, with Thor being helpless. He then generated 2 blasters aimed at his back and unleashed an energy blast, comprising of both the dragon's powers. Additionally, he kept dividing Thor's power, making him unable to escape. The Norse god of thunder took the hit as he screamed in pain while being disintegrated into nothingness. Freya and Odin had tears in their eyes. This was the end of their faction. Odin clenched his fist and gritted his teeth. Using Gungnir, he dashed towards Issei, but the Red Dragon Emperor was too fast. He had his spear as he soon brought out the Mortis Blade, a blade capable of killing gods and immortals. He stabbed Odin in the heart as he looked at the boy in anger and sadness. "I hope you are." Odin couldn't continue his sentence as he fell down dead on Issei's body. He soon turned his attention to Freya, who was fearful, and with a quick throw of the Mortis Blade, he was able to decapitate the goddess, whose head fell down with a thud. Issei had completely wiped out 2 pantheons without any mercy. The blade soon teleported to Issei's hand. "This is madness." Amaterasu spoke with dread in her voice. Her power was taken away by Issei during the first explosion. "We must stop him now." Susanoo spoke as he was ready to charge at Issei. He looked at the 3 faction leaders, all of whom nodded. Issei was only getting even more powerful as the fight went on. "This has gone long enough." Michael spoke with dread as Surziches commanded with anger. "Attack, show him no mercy." Issei shook his head as he spoke with a smile. He saw the armies charging at him or using their magic attacks. "You know, it is interesting that 3 races share one common weakness." Issei raised the spear up and released a light beam into the air as Susanoo spoke with a cocky tone. "You are a fool to do that." Issei looked at the Shinto god and responded "S" again before Susanoo could look up several magic circles that had light magic, or more accurately holy light magic, as he aimed it at the armies. His primary targets were the 3 species that were among the armies, that being yokai, devils and vampires. It is uncanny that devils, yokai and vampires share one common weakness to light, yet there was so much indifference, so much hatred. It's disappointing. The leaders commanded their troops to get out of there, but it was too late. Issei had unleashed a bombardment of holy magic as magic bolts of holy lightning were aimed at the army. As soon as they watched, they had a look of horror as the attacks hit them. The last thing that was on their faces was dread and fear. The troops that were the weakest were annihilated without anything left. The leaders, or the surviving leaders, watched in horror. Issei shook his head. He could see that there were some survivors. Issei made quick work of them as well, destroying them with holy magic from the spear. "Shall we end this, leaders?" Issei looked at the remaining elders. Their army was still remaining as he looked at the leaders. They all had fear or anger in their eyes. Surziches then spoke. "Why, you've destroyed everything we worked so hard to build. Haidu, you killed my sister and you did not stop. You have been slaughtering us. Why won't you join us?" Issei grew angry. No matter what he spoke, he was not able to gain his point across. This slaughter was all for nothing had Surziches used a little of his brain. "You know what? Buck this shit." Issei dashed towards Seirg and his peerage. He quickly dealt with Regulus by sealing the sacred gear inside his book so that he does not become a problem. Seirg rushed towards Issei trying to stop him, however Issei grabbed his hand and ripped it completely. Seirg screamed in pain as Corianna and Kusha tried to save Seirg, but as they came close, Issei dashed towards the 2 girls and choked them by grabbing them by their necks. He soon crushed their necks, killing them. Kusha, Corianna, Seirg shouted with despair in his voice. He lost 3 of his peerage members in just one day, while everyone else helplessly watched. He used another of the orbs, the being Hapatiratana, to attack the leaders and the rest of the peerage. They were 10,000 of them and each were Satan-class devils. While Surziches and some of them would defeat them, it would keep them distracted long enough for Issei to deal with Seirg and the others. The leaders were fighting against Issei's forces, along with the survivors. Issei's next focus was on the remaining of Seirg's peerage. He grabbed Mistita by the neck and stabbed him with a true longinus, killing him. He then turned his attention to Liban and the rest of the peerage and blitzed through them. As he stood on the other side, their heads all fell off. Seirg, the only survivor, gritted his teeth in rage as he desperately tried to fight off his tears. Issei walked towards him and spoke. "You know, I still remember saving your mother. It's a shame what will happen to her once everyone here dies." Seirg widened his eyes. He tried to mouth something, but before he could do, Issei generated a powerful holy light at Seirg, disintegrating him to nothingness. Surziches saw this as he destroyed another of the soldiers. He soon saw Issei rushing towards Grafia. He shouted for his wife to get to safety. "Grafia, teleport back home. Save yourself." Grafia looked at him and nodded. Someone had to protect Milikas, but she couldn't escape. She was one of Atiratana's victims. Her only option was to run, as Surziches tried to teleport her back. This made Issei easily catch her. He grabbed her by the throat and sent her flying. Surziches begged Issei to spare her, but he couldn't care what he thought. Grafia, the maid who treated me the same as Riaz did, well you did not insult like that red-haired whore, you certainly did not make things better, often making things late, not even giving me proper food, you certainly let your bias get the better of you. Grafia looked at Issei with fear as he spoke while looking at her, seeing her fear. He spoke something that would horrify her. Worry not, your son will be well taken care of. Grafia widened her eyes in shock, but before anything could happen, he flung her into the air and dashed towards her. His chest cavity opened up as energy started to generate, boosts were heard multiple times. He soon fired a greenish-white beam at Grafia, who was disintegrated without any trace left. Sekiruuyetei watched in horror. Azazel watched in disbelief, this was nothing but Armageddon. He looked at volley team and started to forcefully teleport it away. Azazel, what the hell? Azazel looked at his foster daughter and spoke. This is a losing battle, he has already wiped out 2 pantheons, and I can't risk your lives, warn the others and ask them to prepare, we will hold him off. Azazel's words made Valerie widen her eyes in horror as she looked at Azazel, she then spoke with sadness. No Azazel. Azazel gave a sad smile knowing his death was inevitable, but he knew he deserved it as Volley was teleported away with her team. Serafol was about to do the same with Sona and her peerage, but Issei shouted. I won't let that happen. Issei fired a very strong beam of holy light aimed at Sona and her peerage, evaporating them into nothingness, devastating Serafol. Tears started to fall from her eyes as she shouted. Zotan. Serafol saw her sister die right in front of her while she was helpless. She looked at Issei with fury in her eyes as she shouted while ready to unleash her most strongest ice magic spell. You bastard. Issei only watched in amusement, seeing her being unable to conjure up anything. He looked at her and spoke with a mocking tone. Did you forget that you have your powers sealed? Serafol lost her anger and widened her eyes in horror, she fell right into Issei's trap, she feared what Issei was going to do to her, while Issei looked at her and quickly dashed towards her. His hands now had the lightning slayer gloves, in blinding speeds he grabbed Serafol by her throat and unleashed a devastating shock which made her scream in pain due to the holy magic and lightning magic. She soon had lather on her mouth, indicating that she had severe damage to her body. He soon crushed her neck making sure she was dead, if she was not before. Sekiruuyetei gritted his teeth as tears fell from his eyes as he watched Issei turn his focus on the remaining devil peerages, brave saints and members of Team Slashdog. In a mere second, Issei breathed flames of drag which burned down every single one of the members present in it. They couldn't even escape because the female members were powerless and sitting ducks unable to do much against a monster like Issei. Issei soon floated next to the only remnants of the army remaining, with Issei speaking. Ah, just like how I planned, just the 15 of us. Issei spoke with a grin, as Elmenhold spoke with fear. You mean you wanted us 15 to fight in the end? Issei gave a nod as he looked at Azazel and spoke with curiosity. Speaking of which, where did you send Volley and her team? Azazel responded with a tone full of anger and spite. To warn the others so that they can gather enough strength to beat you, a monster like you one day. Issei looked at him and only laughed at his face, angering the leaders, to which Barakweel shouted with anger. What's so funny? Issei stopped laughing and responded with a sinister grin, nothing much, you just proved my point, cause after I deal with you, I will hunt down every last supernatural being that exists on this planet that belongs to the factions, no one will survive once I am done with my onslaught. I will make sure of that. Issei's words made the leaders clench their fists in anger as he spoke with spite in his voice. Oh, don't be like that, you all caused this mess, I don't see any of you worthy to live. You failed to understand 3 simple words, leave me alone. This is all your fault. The leaders even became more angrier as Barakweel shouted in pure fury and hatred. You are the reason why we are in this situation, you bastard. Issei shook his head in disappointment as he responded, aw, seems like the crow misses his wife and girl. Barakweel was ready to kill him at all costs as electricity crackled in front of his hands, he unleashed a terrifying holy lightning aimed towards him, however Issei dodges the lightning as he grabbed him by the arms and crushed them. Issei knew that they would intervene as he generated more dragon warriors using Gahapatiratana to keep them distracted, which annoyed many as they were once again helpless. Issei spoke to Barakweel before killing him. Say hi to Akeno and Shuri, K. Issei fired a dragon shot at Barakweel killing him instantly, he screamed in pain for a moment before he was gone. Azazel and Shemhazai watched in horror as Issei soon turned his attention to Amaterasu and generated 2 dragon shots at her killing her instantly. Susanoo and Tsukiyomi were horrified by this revelation, Yasaka was devastated by this, however before they could react Issei punched them sending the 2 gods flying. Issei dashed towards them and slammed the 2 gods to the ground, crushing their skills. Both the gods groaned in pain as Issei fired 2 more dragon shots at the 2 gods, leaving no trace of them left. Issei had eliminated another faction with no mercy, he turned his next attention to Yasaka and Elmenhold. Not it is time for the 2 of you. Issei dashed towards Yasaka and stabbed her with his hand as he removed her heart from his hand. She looked in horror and had tears in her eyes as she spoke, Issei. Goodbye forever. Issei ripped his hand from her heart and threw it on the ground. He soon crushed it. As Yusaka looked in horror, her corpse soon slumped down as he turned his attention to Ilmenhold and fired a concentrated beam of holy light at Ilmenhold, disintegrating her to nothingness. She screamed in pain as she soon died off as well. Issei saw the ones remaining, only a select few remain, as he wanted to save the ones that created the alliance at last, that being Azazel, Michael and Serziches. He soon turned to Gabriel and grabbed her by the face. He looked at her and spoke, "Look at the face, a beauty so charming, yet so rotten." Gabriel looked at Issei with fear and terror as she pleaded. "Issei, please listen to reason." Issei shook his head and angrily shouted, "I am done listening to your reasons. I am ending this." Permanently. Issei slammed her to his knee, cracking a part of her face and breaking her nose. He continued to repeat this over and over again until her face was a complete mess. She was crying. The Red Dragon Emperor threw her in the air and fired a dragon shot, killing her as well, leaving no trace of her left behind. He soon turned to Michael, Uriel and Raphael and focused on the two angels. He grabbed the two seraphs by the head and dragged them on the ground, making them scream in pain. He soon jumped up and boosted his legs multiple times and crushed their heads, causing them to explode into feathers. Michael was left devastated knowing that he is the only surviving angel. He saw Issei walking towards Shemhazai as he grabbed the fallen angel by the neck. Shemhazai Azazel screamed in shock as he started to crush it, making him barely breathe. The current governor general looked in horror as Issei soon crushed his neck, killing him, causing him to explode into feathers. "You know, I am not even interested in torturing you. I just want to end it quickly so that I can be with my loved ones," Issei spoke as he dashed towards Ajuka as he had his spear in his hand. Ajuka tried putting barriers to protect himself. However, Issei activated Penetrate, stabbing him in the heart. Issei removed the spear as the light of the spear from his chest as his corpse slumped down. He soon turned his attention to Falbium and before he could react, Issei decapitated him with ease. Falbium's corpse fell to the ground, soon dying, with Serziches having tears seeing his friends die. Now only 3 people remain, that being Michael, Serziches and Azazel. He soon came to Azazel dashing towards the fallen angel. He was quick as he rammed his hand onto his spine and started to crush it. The fallen angel was paralyzed as he soon slumped. Issei used his legs to kick Azazel's skull so hard that it was soon sent flying. He then exploded into a tuft of feathers. Issei turned his attention to Michael and Serziches, who used their magic attacks at Issei, who easily deflects them back. Issei realizes that he needed to end this. He made sure to get this over with. Nyx was waiting for him. 1 hour later. Michael was long gone, only Serziches remained, who was on his last breath with him, speaking in a cold tone. "You have doomed us all." Issei shook his head in disappointment and spoke, "You have got yourself to blame." Siskonsiches goodbye, forever. Issei raised his leg and crushed his skull as he had no trace of him left. Serziches stopped breathing as Issei kicked his leg multiple times to remove the blood. "Ugh, my legs and armor got dirty." Issei deplored himself as he sat down for a while. "So partner, it's over." An unknown voice spoke to him. Issei looked at the gem that spoke as he responded, "Yes, Drake, but the war is far from over. There is still them lingering back at their worlds, but for now, let's head back to Nyx. She must be waiting." Scene change. Elysian Fields, Realm of Hades, 6:30 p.m. Issei reached the Elysian Fields, where only the souls of the prestigious resided. He was greeted by many of the souls, as Issei often talked to some of them on a weekly basis. He soon saw a black-haired woman with blue eyes waiting for him. Nyx. Nyx turned around to see her beloved back. She rushed to him and embraced him. Issei returned the embrace as she spoke to him, "I thought you'd never come. You'd get killed and leave me like the others." Nyx looked at him with small tears in her eyes as Issei rubbed it and spoke, "I told you once and will tell you again, I am not leaving you, and at this point you knew that I keep my word, right?" Nyx looked at him and gave a smile. Issei had asked Hades to keep her safely in the Elysian Fields, where no one would even think about looking for her. Issei soon kissed her on the forehead, making her blush. "So Ice-chan. It is over, right?" Issei and Nyx soon split up as the duo saw that they were surrounded by Hades, Persephone and their children, Melano and Macaria. "Indeed, but the other races and those that were not present in the war are still out there. No doubt they will want vengeance. That is why, until then, it is not done yet. I will do anything in my power to stop them, no matter the cost." Issei's words made Persephone worry for him as she spoke. "All this because they refuse to let you live in peace." Issei looked at her and nodded. "Yeah, regardless, I am happy that you chose not to fight me. Wouldn't want to hurt you in any way, although, Hades, sorry for what happened to Olympus." Hades responded by shaking his head, "Don't blame yourself. My brothers brought this on themselves, along with the rest of Olympus who followed their lead. But what will you do now?" Issei looked at him and spoke. "First I will deal with the remnants of those supernatural, making sure no one survives. But, I think I will settle down, maybe have a life away from everything, and start a new decent life." The 5 seemed happy with this, as Issei looked up ahead. Now that his new life has begun, he will be facing some problems during the earlier stages, but that can be fixed. Scene change. Time skip brought to you by Chibi Issei going to Nevada. 5 years later. Mount Kailash, India, 5:30 p.m. Issei was seated, now much older than what he was before, amongst the remaining representatives of the supernatural. However, they were those that did not participate in the war and not a part of the alliance. He looked at the representatives, that being Dagda from Celtic, Ereshkigal from Sumerian pantheon, Quetzalcoatl from Aztec and Shiva from the Hindu mythology. The others decided to not show up out of fear. Look, if you want to know my answer, just don't bother me and we will be fine. You handle your stuff and I'll handle mine. Is that understood? The gods and goddesses present understood this, as Shiva spoke. I had a bad feeling about Dai. It was a good thing that I backed away from this alliance. When you exposed his truth 5 years, Shiva's voice had gratitude. He had a feeling that Issei was someone that he shouldn't fear, but should avoid provoking at all costs, with Issei speaking. Yeah, he is gone, and I could care less what happens next anyways. What are your thoughts? Issei looked at the 2 goddesses and 1 god, Dagda, then spoke with a serious tone. I never considered showing myself or my pantheon to begin with. The Celtic pantheon has, and will have no quarrel with you Haidu. That's good, keep it among yourself. I have heard that you live in a separate dimension, right? Dagda nodded as Issei spoke. Very well. Speaking of which, I was wondering, should we go out sometime? Get to know each other? Quetzalcoatl tried to ask him out for a date, as she hoped that Issei would at least want to settle down with her. However, Issei shook his head and spoke. Are you asking me out? Then I am sorry, I must decline. I am already married. Issei showed his wedding ring to her, making her understand this as she looked down, and finally Ereshkigal spoke with a neutral tone. Anyway, the Sumerian pantheon also does not have a problem. You can live peacefully without any issues, plus, we have no intention angering you in any way. Issei nodded in understanding as he soon got up and spoke. In that case, this meeting is done. We can all head back to our homes. Issei teleported back to his place in New York. He had already dealt with every last supernatural being that opposed him and destroyed all their landmarks, leaving no survivors. He made sure to hunt them down so that they couldn't pose a problem in the future. That boy, he really does want to be left alone, right? Ereshkigal asked Quetzalcoatl, who responded, yeah, those fools forced him to be imprisoned on accusation of sleeping with his mate, who happened to be a goddess. Like, that's just dumb. There are so many demigods running around in this world. I agree, and we shouldn't be calling him a boy. He is too mature for that. He did not intend to harm any of us, even when he had good reason to do so, especially in your case, right Shiva? Shiva looked at Dagda and gave a nod. Indeed, although I nor my fellow gods and goddesses looked down upon the boy, we were still once with the alliance. I was a fool to consider them as allies. Had I worked with them, Haidu would have attacked me in self-defense. Shiva spoke with a frown as the other gods and goddesses agreed. They all decided to soon head back to their own worlds, as they considered to make a new alliance that would be better than the ones the 3 factions created. Back with Issei, he soon reached his apartment in United States of America, which was a decent house that had several windows and rooms. He also dealt with the remaining hiatus so that they don't become a problem for him. Issei soon walked to the porch of the house and rang the bell as someone came towards the door. He opened the door as he greeted Issei. Issei crouched to his son's level and lifted the boy in his arms. The boy was described to be a brown-haired boy with green eyes, as he spoke with a smile. Hey Basara, where is your mother? The now identified Basara, who was Issei's son, looked at him with a smile. The boy was 4 years old, as his mother soon came from the shadows. She was none other than Nyx herself. She was now having red eyes instead of blue eyes and wore a red full-sleeved shirt with black collar and had her hair left open. Additionally, she even wore a brown leggings and had a calming aura as opposed to the tremendous dark aura she usually gave. The reason was that Nyx did not want her son to fear her, and Basara was still unaware of his parents' true identity. Hey honey, Nyx walked towards the both of them as the 3-year-old was wanting to be lifted by his mother as Nyx spoke. Alright here. Nyx lifted her son as Basara asked her. Mama, can we go to get some pizza? Nyx's face soon changed into a bit of a frown as she spoke sternly. No Basara, we have food at home. Nyx's words made Basara pout in sadness as Issei added, come on Nyx, we don't have outside food often, can we go out for once? Nyx had a look of sadness as Basara gave his puppy eyes and pleaded, Mama, I will even have my greens tomorrow, please. Nyx eyed seeing her son and gave a sad smile. Alright, but you gotta eat your greens tomorrow, okay? Basara agreed with a smile as Nyx responded with a smile of her own as she spoke. Let's head to the car, we should head there before rush hour happens in the restaurant. Basara cheered at having pizza since it was one of his favorites as the family soon headed to the restaurant which was nearby to have some food. There was no one that could ruin their peaceful life and those that did were dead. Chapter 32. Claiming the divinity. Wait sister, is it true? Artemis asked with a smile, happy to see that her sister is now part of the droid faction, as she responded. Yeah, I confessed to Issei and told Zeus about my love for Ice. Athena spoke with a smile as she recalled on how angry Zeus and Hera were when she revealed that she was dating Issei and loved him. Either way, I am happy for you, Artemis spoke with a smile as she embraced her sister, as she spoke. Well, I was considering taking my relationship with him to the next level. Artemis spoke with a blushing smile, as Athena widened her eyes in surprise, to which she asked, "Are you sure of this?" Artemis gave a nod in response, however Athena only responded with a smile. I never thought that the goddess who hated men and is known as the goddess of virginity would lose that to a man. Artemis gave a nod, however she was happy to be with a man she truly loved. As Athena felt a little bit saddened, she looked down, which was something that Artemis noticed. Sis, is everything alright? Athena looked at Artemis and spoke. I wish to take my relationship to the next level after some time. I believe it wouldn't be right for me to rush towards Issei like this. Artemis nodded in understanding as she spoke. I see, well sis, take your time, and there is no need to rush. Issei understands this, and there is no reason to rush. Athena nodded as Artemis then spoke. That is true, I guess, but regardless, I wonder, like what is next for you guys, like what if Orion comes back? Artemis flinched for a moment. Athena upon realizing this spoke. Sorry, I didn't intend to bring back some past trauma. Artemis shook her head and spoke with a smile. No, it's alright, but now I know that if he comes back, I can protect myself, and if I can't, Issei and the droid faction. Athena was taken aback by this. She knew she could rely on people that will always have her back no matter what happens. She soon smiled as she spoke. I see, regardless, I wonder what Issei plans to do now, Athena asked Artemis, who responded. I'll say that he wants to lay low for a while, since he knows that the factions have a nasty habit of not leaving him alone. He will probably want to either speed up his plans or deal with the others, or he would want to lay low and let fear get hold. Regardless, we can relax for a while, Athena nodded as she spoke. I see. Artemis gave a smile as the sisters soon went outside. There they saw Elizabeth waiting for them. Hey girls, Elizabeth cheerfully greeted the two, as Artemis did the same. Hey Liz, so what are you here for? Elizabeth spoke with a smile, as she looked at Artemis and spoke. I was asking, do you think it would be right to? Elizabeth looked at Artemis as she asked. Right to, is something wrong, Liz? Elizabeth spoke with a neutral look. Well, I also wish to take my relationship to the next level with Ice. Artemis was surprised by this, as she soon gave a bright smile, as she speaks. Of course it is, let's go tonight and we will do it together. Quinella, Charlotte and Nyx have already done so, and I don't think Issei hates us, so that is not an issue. Elizabeth gave a nod, as she then asked. Speaking of which, where is Miyuki? Elizabeth responds to Artemis. She is with Ain, helping her with magic alongside Gondal. She is still getting used to her new situation. I have a feeling that she also has started to have feelings for Issei since Issei helped her with the curse. Artemis and Athena felt a little jealous due to Issei attracting her as well, but they sighed, knowing that Issei's kind nature is what attracted her as well. I see. Anyways, Athena, would you stay back for a while? Athena gave a nod as she speaks. All the best, you two. Athena spoke with a smile, causing the two to nod, although they blushed remembering the night they are going to have with him. The two soon teleported out of there, leaving Athena alone. As she pondered on what she had to do, another voice came out from the darkness. You have a moment, Athena. Athena looked at the voice and felt intimidated. It was revealed to be Malak himself. She had never encountered the man himself in person. She had seen him on the screen before, but to have encountered him like this, on a friendly basis. Relax, I am only here to talk. Malak spoke with a smile, as Athena calmed down for a minute. He was the man that even Shiva is weary of. Zeus and the other gods fear him, while many are terrified of his mere existence. Say, why did you not go with Artemis if you clearly love Issei? Athena spoke with a blushing tone. It was not because I did not want to go, it was because I don't think Issei was ready for me yet, and I have no intention of doing it with him if he is not interested. Artemis and Elizabeth were in a relationship with him for a while, and I think it would be best if I did it after a while. Malak understood this as he spoke with a deadpan tone. I see, so you want to do the deed with him alone? Athena immediately blushed at this, as she responded. And no, I didn't mean it like that. It is just that, I confessed to him today, and I am not sure it would be right for us to do the deed today. Malak nodded in understanding as he spoke. I see. Well, it is your choice, Athena, no one is forcing you. Malak walked away as Athena nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, Malak had decided to attack the underworld due to his new targets being Team/Dog. He had already prepared for the attack as well as knew who his primary targets are. Let's see how you morons use the power of the sacred gear. Malak spoke with a grin as he walked away, preparing to leave right away. Scene change. Underworld Council, 3 p.m. So, you ready for this, Nyx? Issei wore a black suit and a white shirt. He wore a black pants and a black shoes, almost as if he was getting ready for office. Nyx on the other hand wore a beautiful red sleeveless dress with stocking and heels. It seems like the mummies want to have a word with us, Issei spoke with a mocking tone as Nyx calmed him down. Well, you did promise to meet them sooner than later. Nyx spoke with a soothing tone, as Issei nodded, the couple then entered the room, where the devil messenger spoke with gratitude. Red Dragon Emperor, Lady Nyx, I am glad the two of you could make it. Issei recognized him to be the same messenger that gave him the invite as he spoke. You brought us here and wanted to talk to us. I just hope that this isn't my waste of time, otherwise they will regret it. Issei spoke coldly, causing the man to nod with fear. He soon went inside as Nyx spoke. This day, these elders seem to talk about unimportant stuff, and even so the topic of Malak and his droid faction will show up, Issei responded to her words. It is true, they wish to save their skins, leaving the underworld to its own doom. Regardless, it's a shame that they are making a deal with the demon himself, Issei spoke with a grin, as Nyx thought. And that demon is you, Nyx thought with a smile as the messenger returned. They are here to see you, the messenger spoke with fear as the two nodded in agreement and went inside. As soon as they went inside, they saw the room that was chattering. As soon as they entered, they had fear on their faces, as the council leader Wilbert spoke fearfully. So can we begin, Lord Issei? Issei smirked seeing their fear as he spoke coldly. I have one question, why is it that I worth negotiate with you? If you convince me then make it worth my time, I have got better things to do, the elders nodded as one of them asked. Are you speaking seriously? Nyx angrily responded. You dare doubt him? Nyx released some of her aura, making the council flinch in fear as Issei brought Nyx towards him and spoke. Now, calm yourself babe, Nyx pouted while having a blush on her face as Issei released her and spoke. As for you guys, you have to make it worth my time, or I will finish you all just like I did to Ajuka Beelzebub, Issei spoke coldly making them all fear as Wilbert spoke. Give us a few minutes, we will make it worth your time, Wilbert spoke as Issei responded. 10 minutes, that is all you have, the council discussed amongst themselves while Issei played Brawl Stars. This time he chose Doug as his brawler. I am not going to lie, his revive can be broken as hell, Issei nodded in agreement as he responded. He is basically Jackie on steroids, able to heal his allies and damage his enemies. It's a shame she will never be like Doug, Issei added, to which Drake agreed to this. Jackie is so hard to play, especially if the opponents are ranged. Issei had completed his match, he played 2 more matches as he then watched the elders discuss amongst themselves. Once they were done, the elders gave a list of proposals to Issei, as he then looked at them, and noticed a few things that would be important. He saw some girls that are interesting to his goals, as he summoned a pen. You can reject and accept any of the proposals. One of the elders added nervously to Issei, who nodded in agreement as he brought out a pen and twirled it around while reading them. He was intrigued by some of the proposals as he spoke. Interesting, very interesting. The council seemed to be worried as Issei started writing and eliminating some of the proposals present. Things were seeming to be interesting, and with things are going, the fall of the devil faction will be pretty easy. He slashed some of the proposals as he was not interested in the girls present. I accept some of the proposals, however I will reject some of them, Issei spoke seriously as he signed the paper with the altered proposals given to them. The main reason for this was that they wanted to get on Issei's good side, as they knew getting to his good side was something they wanted. They also knew that unlike the factions that were either begging or forcing him, they decided to negotiate with him. Although Issei spoke garnering all their attention, many were nervous as Issei spoke. Word of this must not reach the DXD team or the leaders in any way. Let me make this clear, if they come to know of this, I will personally destroy our agreement and I will kill all of you. Do I make myself clear? The elders nodded in understanding and fear. They were aware of Issei's hatred of the faction leaders, as they understood that angering him is a death sentence at this point. I understand, I won't reveal the truth to anyone, Wilbert spoke seriously yet nervously, as they all agree to this. Good, now then, and if there is anything else I want, I will let you know, and if that is all, I will take my leave. I hope you keep your word, Wilbert. Wilbert nodded as Issei and Nyx went outside. The proposals were engagements to the girls he wanted to get engaged, and some land he wanted for his own operations, the land relating to the Nibirius clan. The reason he did this was because the Nibirius clan had a slew of secrets he wanted to exploit. Additionally, Issei had to research more of the super devils these devils were trying to exploit, but he knew that the only way he could get the information was by gaining the territory of the Nibirius clan. Although, he couldn't deny but have some respect for the elders, or some of them, as their only intention was to protect their children from Malak's invasion. The engagement served that purpose, especially for some of the girls Issei had wanted like Mio and Stella Neris. So, why the Nibirius territory? Nyx asked her lover, to which Issei responded. Hades had informed me that the last Nibirius devil who was here took the help of a human scientist and his yokai wife, their intention and real goal, to research the creation of the supernatural. Nyx nodded in understanding as he then continued. But that is not all, the house also had more information about the Malabranch. Nyx nodded in understanding as she spoke. Is that why you needed access to the area? Issei gave a nod and a smile, however as they did, an explosion took place. But the Issei was surprised at first, but soon his surprise changed to smirk as he spoke. Let's head there and do what we have to do. Nyx nodded in understanding as the two teleported to the location. Scene change. Lilith, Underworld, 4:30 p.m. The droid army had attacked the capital of the Underworld. Along with Malak, Vader and Grievous, above them was the Soulless One that was raining destruction on the city. Damn them, they are everywhere. Arthur spoke while destroying one of the droids, as several more appear. Pyron the swordsman, the droid, commanded several of the blaster shots to be aimed at Arthur, as the droids responded. Roger Roger, the droids started to fire their attacks at the swordsman, as Bikku managed to destroy the droids, as Bikku spoke. Easy Arthur, now is not the time to get worked up. Arthur nodded as they were surrounded by several other battle droids that were marching towards them, as Grievous soon decided to join the fight as he wanted to challenge the two. So you are the Pendragonair, Grievous spoke with a taunting grin as he removed his cloak and commanded. Back away, I will deal with supernatural slime myself, Grievous commanded the droids as he brought out his 4 lightsabers, as he was soon surrounded by the entirety of Volley team. Surrender Grievous, you can't beat all of us, Kuroka taunted the droid general as she released a dark mist that tried to weaken the metal coating. Kuroka was surprised by this as she asked, you should be weakened, this is poison mist that can weaken even the strongest of living beings. Kuroka spoke with shock as Grievous only laughed. You fool, did you really think I was like a human or a supernatural being? I am not human, I am mechanical, that is your biggest mistake. Kitty Grievous charged at them and easily disarmed Valerie, who was not actually fighting him. Valerie, Kuroka shouted in anger as she angrily responded by firing several Senjutsu flames. Grievous easily dispelled the flames and charged at her with the intent of killing her. He easily evaded more of the flames that came in her way. She had a tough time anticipating the droid general's attacks. She tried dodging his saber strikes, but it was too quick. She was easily overwhelmed by several blades as she fell to the ground, muttering her last words. Damn you, Kuroka passed out as Bikku tried to rush to her aid, but Grievous was not letting that happen as he quickly dashed towards Bikku and using his lightsabers, he stabbed Bikku in the stomach, making him fall to his knees. Bikku was barely alive. Seeing this, Arthur shouted in horror. Arthur rushed to his friend's aid but was blocked by Grievous, who used his knowledge to break the stance. Driven by his own anger and vengeance, Arthur charged at him while Issei teleported the injured far away to safety, while Arthur's strikes were driven by anger, allowing Grievous to block them with relative ease. Your strikes are predictable, you are damaging yourself more by fighting me, Grievous spoke with a mocking tone as Arthur got angry as Grievous continued, you are not even worth fighting. Grievous ended with a mocking tone, causing Arthur to declare, why you, bastard. Arthur charged at Grievous only for him to twirl his blade thrice. He dashed to the other side to have a look of horror on his face. There were 3 saber wounds on his stomach. He soon fell down as Grievous spoke. Disappointing, Grievous walked away as he commanded the legions. I want this place destroyed. The droids nodded in agreement as they started firing the Hailfire tanks and the Otts to destroy this place and turn it to dust. Meanwhile, as this was going on, Vader was handling the Gremory peerage. They were all holding their throats in pain while Leia and Gasper had passed out. Vader had his hand raised. You're hardly a threat. Vader spoke with a mocking tone as Riaz desperately tried to use her power to stop the Dark General but was unable to do so. She saw her team had almost lost consciousness, with Riaz soon losing hers as well. I would love to kill you, but you will live a little longer since it would be enjoyable to see him kill you. Vader walked away as he was ambushed by Fenrir. So the dog wants to fight. Vader brought out his lightsaber and ignited it. Swish. The lightsaber glowed in the darkness as Fenrir was quick. He dashed Vader as the latter blocked the strikes aimed at him. Vader was being pushed back much to his surprise. So the dog has power. Interesting. Vader blocked the claws with his strikes, fully aware that the claws are known to kill God. Vader was going to have the fight of his life. Fenrir, despite being weakened, was a force to be reckoned with. He was a pretty strong being. Fenrir used his jaws to try and grab Vader, but was unable to do so. He was easily able to evade the jaws at the right moment. Despite this, Fenrir was relentless. Roaring angrily into the skies, Fenrir tried to clasp its jaw at Vader, who managed to stop his jaw mid-flight. Fenrir tried to shut its jaws, but was unable to do so. Vader also seemed to be struggling. The force the Fenrir emitted was too strong. Vader had to finish this quickly. Using the telekinesis, Vader flung the God Slayer flying as he dashed with his lightsaber. He was ready to impale the beast, which he did by stabbing it in its stomach. Fenrir howled in pain as he swiped Vader with his claws, which caused some damage to his suit. Additionally, Vader was sent flying. Not bad. Fenrir was ready for the kill, however Vader had a plan. Using his telekinesis, he grabbed the rocks, and when Fenrir was close, he put them in his jaws. He knew Fenrir would snap them in a split second. However, that was all Vader needed. When he snapped the rocks, Vader flung himself in the air and sat on the wolf. The wolf tried to get him off. Vader struggled for a minute as Fenrir clashed him towards the rocks and even a metal pipe, damaging Vader's helmet a bit, but he managed to get a proper hold of the wolf, and when the time was right, Vader stabbed him in the head, causing him to flail for a minute before falling down to the ground. Vader looked at him for a minute and walked away. The reason Fenrir was like that was because it still couldn't use its full power as of yet, only close to 80% of its original power can be used, making it far weaker than it is supposed to usually be. Despite this, Vader was damaged in the helmet and some of his metal parts as he decided to get them repaired for his next battle. He knew Malak and Grievous can handle the rest. Speaking of Malak, he was merely toying with Team Slashdog. As soon as he was ready to finish, he was suddenly ambushed. But the Malak saw his 4 attackers, that being Mio, Stella, Claire and Ryuka. Interesting. Malak scanned his attackers, knowing full well they are only pretending, while the aforementioned have to attack their ally, while their inner selves were concerned for what it to come for them. Regardless, I won't let you get in my way. Malak evaded the attacks and went for the weakest link, and that was Ryuka. However, an invisible barrier courtesy of her was present preventing the attack. Sensing the opportunity, Stella dashed with a flame sword in her hand, ready to take down Malak, who was able to block with his own lightsaber. I am impressed. Malak was caught off guard. He never expected someone like Anerus to deal damage to him. He felt like he could enjoy this, as he soon saw that the leaders were joining the fight as well. He commanded Kalani to distract them, who agreed to do so. Malak used telekinesis to send her flying. He unleashed lightning storm at the girls, causing them to shout in pain. He also made sure to hold back his strength, primarily since they were on the same side. Team Slashdog was joining the fight as 3 people wanted vengeance for what they had done to Lavinia, that being Issei, Suzaku and Tobio. The later bringing in Jin to assist him in the fight. "Oh, right where I want you," Malak smirked darkly as he blocked Issei's attack. Suzaku, out of anger and spite, used the vermilion bird to burn Malak, who was able to use telekinesis to block the attack. He then flung the bird at her, causing her to remain distracted. Malak was standing strong as vulture droids and hyena bombers were beginning their assault on the Team Slashdog. As they struggled to deal with the buzz droids, Tobio was getting overwhelmed by the droids. "Tobi-kun!" Suzaku shouted in fear as Malak created a small ball of concentrated telekinesis energy. He charged towards Tobio, with him unleashing the ball of energy, disintegrating Tobio completely. This was the spell known as Repulse that would disintegrate Tobio completely, killing him without any mercy. "My target has been eliminated," Malak spoke with a smile, as the telekinetic energy was destroying all the surrounding locations, sending the ones far away further behind. Stella was the nearest as she was almost going to get destroyed. She looked at fear at what is to come. She couldn't run due to her legs being frozen with fear. She closed her eyes, accepting her fate. However, as fate would have it, someone came to rescue her. But the Malak was surprised by this as he looked at the one who rescued the girl. Never thought he would be seeing him here. Regardless, he had an idea why he was here and smirked, knowing he only came to rescue her, one of their allies. Well, look who has finally come." Malak spoke mockingly as he looked at Issei, was on the other side, as he asked, "You okay?" Stella opened her eyes and blushed, seeing the position she was in. She was being carried in a bridal manner as Mio and the other girls rushed to her sister's aid. With her asking in worry, as Issei put Stella down, as she still had the blushing look. Some of the girls seemed jealous of Stella as he looked at Malak, who spoke with a mocking tone. "I actually assumed that you didn't want to help the factions, so why are you here?" Issei looked at Malak, who asked the question. "Who, me? I could care less if they die, but she is worth saving," Issei spoke, causing Stella to blush, to which Malak only gave a hearty laugh. "So you are adding some more girls as well?" Issei shrugged as he responded. "You know it, so are we going to fight?" Malak shook his head and responded, "Maybe another time. We have already gotten what we came here for. Destroying these fools is pointless." Malak spoke with a shrug as he soon teleported away with the entire droid army, leaving Issei alone with Nyx, who had joined shortly. "You alright?" Stella gave a blushing nod as some of the girls present were jealous. Issei understood this as they saw Team Slashdog mourning over the loss of Tobio as one of their members, Natsume, as she angrily spoke. "Why didn't you rescue him?" Issei spoke with a neutral tone. "I told you before and again, not my monkeys, not my circus." Natsume got livid as she marched to Issei and screamed with tears falling from her eyes. "You are a damned bastard." Natsume raised her hand for a slap, only for Nyx to grab her hand as she struggled against the primordial superior strength. "Let go of me," Natsume exclaimed with anger as Nyx responded by squeezing her hand as she groaned in pain and eventually snap. "Ah!" Natsume shouted in pain as her hand was snapped. Nyx released her hand and spoke coldly. "You have no right to slap or ask Issei's help in that matter. Now if you will excuse, we have better things to do." Issei and Nyx teleported, leaving a blushing Stella from the events that have happened. Some of the girls were jealous of how Issei treated her. While those from Team Slashdog and the leaders mourned Tobio's death, the droid faction was able to get away with another kill. Suzaku and Sei glared at Issei with anger, him refusing to help them costed them their fiancé and childhood crush's death respectively. Natsume was holding her hand in pain while she looked at Issei with hatred, wondering what will it take for his help. Valerie looked down sadly as she managed to survive the whole ordeal. Regardless, a growing disappointment was growing inside of her due to how Natsume treated Issei. Scene change. Haidu residence, 9:30 p.m. Issei and Nyx teleported back home. Many of the residents were not present primarily due to Tobio's death, leaving only them as the residents. So what do you want to do now? Issei looked at Nyx and spoke. We now only have the hero faction left, and they will fall relatively easily, but for now we should lay low. Their countdown is just beginning and soon enough, my new fiancés will be here as well. Nyx nodded with a smile, as she gave a kiss to Issei. Once we get this over with, I have a small request. Issei looked at Nyx as he gave a nod and spoke with a smile. Tell me. Nyx then came close to him and spoke. Once this is over, I want to have a child. My own child. Will you fulfill this request? Issei nodded with a smile, as he continued. You will have a child and that is my promise to you, or we can do it sometime in the future. Nyx nodded as Issei spoke. But I think I will rest for a while. Nyx nodded as she saw Issei walk inside. She knew who was inside and smirked. I hope you have fun. Nyx teleported back to the Nibirius domain to see if she could get this information Issei wanted, and that was about the Super Devil research and the Malabranch. Issei opened the door and was greeted with a surprising sight. It was Elizabeth and Artemis. Elizabeth wore a black leotard that highlighted her figure perfectly, along with her blushing look made it tender. While Artemis wore a red and black bikini, in addition to wearing a black velvet choker with a star-shaped pendant, of which it seemed to be made of gold. Girls, what is going on here? Issei seemed nervous as he had a feeling on what will happen. He knew that the girls were there to move their relationship to the next level, however he was uncertain since one was a former angel, while the other was a former man-hating goddess. We want you to take our Artemis spoke with a blush as she soon turned away from Issei. What Artemis, what do you exactly wanted me to do? He was uncertain whether she wants to do something else or not. I want you to take my virginity. Artemis spoke out loud, as Issei remained stunned by this. He never thought this day would come, as he asked, are you sure, Artie? Like if you don't want to do it, I am fine by this too. No, I want you to do it with me. Back then, I always thought my destined one was Orion, but you know what he did to me, right? Issei nodded, as Artemis continued, I was afraid of men, that fear turned into hatred, and I did many wrong deeds to anyone from my side that could be stated as injustices, but not anymore. I don't want to fear men, I don't want to hate men, not anymore. I love you Issei, I love you more than anyone else. You showed me the error of my ways and helped me during my most darkest time, when my own father abandoned me and my sister. You initially hated us, but I couldn't blame you, given what you went through. But your kindness and your compassion to us is what brought us to you. Artemis confessed to Issei yet again, as Elizabeth added her own points. I agree, my own leader Gabriel along with the other seraphs abandoned me, yet you took me in, they sold me to you, but you never tried to harm or even hurt us in any way. That is why we fell for you, but you knew that, don't you? Issei looked at her and gave a nod. He was very well aware of Elizabeth having feelings for him, along with Artemis. After all, they did confess to him, as he spoke. Very well, then, I hope you have enough stamina to keep up with me. Issei spoke with a smile, as he approached Artemis. She had a red tint on her face, implying she was ready for whatever was going to come. It was no secret that she had prepared for this exact day, that she would become one with her lover. Elizabeth also had the same thoughts. She even went to Nyx and Artemis for some advice, the former providing more advice as opposed to the latter, given the former had done hex with Issei. Issei soon sat down on the bed, and he patted as the girls had a blush on their faces. They soon sat taking one side each of Issei. They all had a smile, as they made sure to make Issei's night as pleasurable as possible. Lemon skipped, please read it on website. Issei soon lifted the girls and put them on his bed as he sleeps at the center, with Artemis and Elizabeth instinctively cuddling him. Issei then pulled the two girls together as sleep soon cradled into his arms. Chapter 33. Dual side developments. Issei opened his eyes. He soon woke up to see the naked Artemis and a naked Elizabeth both cuddling to him. They had their arms wrapped around them. Issei brings the girls together, knowing the pleasurable night the couple had, an unforgettable pleasurable night that had happened between them. I love you two more than anyone else, along with the rest of my mates. Issei kissed Artemis and Elizabeth on their foreheads, earning a smile from the both of them. Soon enough Artemis started to open her eyes. She rubbed it and gave a small smile to her eyes, and spoke, morning honey. Morning to you too Artie, although never thought you would call me honey. Artemis had a blush as she spoke. Well, I did perform the deed with you after all, so, but if you want, I can call you. Issei cuts her off with a kiss to her lips and responds, I don't mind when in private, okay? Artemis gave a blushing smile in response as she snuggled next to Issei's chest. She may no longer be called the goddess of virginity or the virgin goddess, but she did not mind. As long as she remained by the side of her Ice, none of that mattered. She could care less what Zeus or the other Olympians besides Hestia and Athena thought of her. They were not there when she was needed the most, but Issei and Athena were. Hestia came a little later, but she came regardless. Hey Ice. Artemis looked at Issei with a smile, as Issei looked at her and responded, "Say, what child do you think I should give birth to? Like, what is your call?" I am not so sure, I don't have a preference in my own opinion." Artemis turned her gaze elsewhere. She remembered some of her memories. She knew she had hurt many, thanks to her past trauma. In her eyes, she was far from redeemed. She needed to redeem herself properly. She made mistakes in her past, and it was about time to correct it. "Artemis. Is everything alright?" Issei asked with concern, to which Artemis spoke in response. "Ice, if I were to tell you that I want a boy, would you be mad at me?" Issei shook his head and spoke with a smile in response. "No, why would I be mad at you? A little male version of you would be nice as well, although, I would like it for a child. If it is a girl, a little version of you would be nice. On second thought, a boy would be nice for our first child, and I would prefer a younger version of you. I would love to raise a boy of my own, a child of my own." Artemis spoke with a cheeky grin, as she continued with a sad tone, "Plus, raising him with love would act as a way of atoning for my sins, Ice." Issei's smile starts to fade a little. She feels guilty for her past. No, she is haunted and shackled by her past. He did not know what to say, but he understood what she was thinking. "I have ruined lives. Sometimes, I wonder if I can even atone for what I did. Yes, some, if not many, have peeped and breached my privacy, and in one case, gaped me regardless. I did things I shouldn't have. Maybe, this way, I can make things better, not only for myself, but also for my future children. I was blinded by hatred, and I no longer want to have any shred of hatred towards my opposite race." Issei saw her crying. It haunted her on what she did in her past. There was only one thing he could do. He rubbed her tears with his hands as he spoke. "Don't cry, Artie. You did so much to change yourself. You changed your huntresses, allowing them to have their own families. That is the first thing you did, and then you changed your nature completely, worked on it and revamped it. You are not the same Artemis Malak for it all those months ago. You have changed, you are different, and I am more than happy for you, Artie." Artemis started to tear up, and soon enough she rubbed them off and smiled as she spoke, with a smile. "I guess, you are right." Issei smiled in response, as he once again kissed her on the forehead, causing her to blush. She looked at Issei as she continued, "I still have work to do though, if I need to work on my actions. That's the spirit anyway. You don't need to give birth to a boy. If you do for a girl, that would also work. It does not matter what child you give birth to, as long as you love them unconditionally, you'd be fine. In the end of the day, gender doesn't matter. Your child is your child, and no one can love a child more than his own parents, his mother and father." Artemis nodded in agreement, as she knew that her future child, regardless of who it will be her own child. She is going to love them no matter what happens. Issei smiled, seeing how much Artemis has changed, or how have things changed. His life has turned completely better. Even Artemis and many of the guests, both new and old, however mostly new, have changed for the better. Soon enough, someone else also woke up, as a yawn was heard. "Hey, what you guys are talking about?" The couple turned around to see Elizabeth, who was yawning, keeping her hand on her mouth, as Issei spoke with a smile. "Nothing much, we were just having a short conversation, that is all." Artemis rubbed her tears, trying to hide it, as she spoke. "Morning, Liz, how did you sleep?" Elizabeth spoke with a smile, as she spoke. "I slept well." Elizabeth looked down. She held her stomach, remembering the experience she had yesterday night. She had a blush on her face. That was the first time she had a Hexwell experience, and she had no regrets. "Seems like our angel is having impure thoughts." Artemis teased Elizabeth, causing her to become beet red, as she refused to meet her gaze. Artemis started to chuckle as she spoke. "No need to be embarrassed, we are on the same side, after all." Elizabeth looked at her and nodded, as Issei spoke. "And I love you too, Liz, no matter what happens." Issei spoke while kissing her forehead, causing her to have a small blush on her face. She knew that Issei loved her no matter what happened, as Issei spoke. "Well, let's get dressed up and head downstairs for breakfast. The others would be waiting." Issei spoke with a smile, earning nods from both Artemis and Elizabeth as they both get ready for their breakfast. Artemis and the rest of the girls, along with Issei, were seated on the table. The good thing was that there was no Riaz and her peerage to annoy them, as well as no Issei's mother Mickey or Ika present, since all of them had gone to visit Goro in the hospital. "Stop, Issei, this is embarrassing." Artemis spoke with a blush as she seated on Issei's lap. It seemed like it was her turn to do so, as Issei spoke. No, you are my mate, there is no way I can ignore that." Artemis looked away with a red tint on her cheeks. She never thought she would be treated as a child of all things. Soon enough Nyx asked, "So how was your night with Issei?" Artemis did not respond much as she and Elizabeth looked away having a blush. Some of the girls pouted in jealousy, that being Miyuki and Athena, who were also present in the dining table. While the others like Ingvild and Valerie sighed, knowing that Issei had shown feelings for her, as they could only hope that they may get their chance, and even if they did not, it was fine, at least they were fighting for something worthwhile. It was breathtaking, Artemis muttered, now being a mate of the strongest Red Dragon Emperor, was having a blush on her face, as Elizabeth agreed with having an equal amount of blushing expression. Quinella then added, I knew you girls enjoyed your time, just like me, Nyx and Charlie did, we all had a good time. Charlotte became a blushing mess, as Nyx also had a red tint on her face. Soon enough, the group started talking about other things. Issei then asked, speaking of which, how is Aine doing? Miyuki responded to Issei, she is now feeling well, should we tell her about what her sister did? Not yet, she needs to get accustomed to the droid army, she was a bit worried seeing Malak and Vader, remember? Miyuki nodded in understanding, as she remembered how worried she was seeing them, even though the duo did not intend to scare her in any way, they could only hope that she would be getting along with them in the future. Very well, Athena has been really getting along with the others, so I'd say that is also a plus, and even then, from what I hear La Folia is doing an amazing job getting things up in check, soon I think she will become a general and Ondel managed to get Roswis as a sleeper agent, the ex-Valkyrie fought back, but she was no match for her grandmother, she eventually became a sleeper agent. That's good, that's very good, maybe now we can focus on the territories we have gained, thanks to the deal we made with the council. Issei responded with a smile, what deal? Ingvild asked with a tone of surprise as Issei spoke, in return for our protection, they have decided to give us territories of Nibiru's clan, I think you know them right? Yes I do. Valerie spoke with a serious tone as everyone turned to her, the clan was infamous, known for siding with Ingvild's ancestors and the satanic descendants in the Devil Civil War after they went into hiding. From there, they experimented on the Malabranch and they wanted to create the super devils, artificial super devils, like Ajuka, Surziches and my grandfather. Ingvild knew about the Devil Civil War and she understood and knew the Nibiru's clan, however she did not know about the experimentations that had happened, as Artemis asked, how did you know of this? Valerie responded to the goddess of hunting, Kuroka told me about this, you see, her father was a human researcher that the Nibiru's clan had worked with to create artificial super devils, however when the researcher died, along with his Nekashu wife, this heavily slowed down the research. Kuroka and Kaneko, or should I say back then, she was Shirin were the two she left behind. Kuroka was experimented on, however when the Nibiru's head decided to do the same to Shirin, let's just say that she ended up killing him and ran away. I see, so that was why she was astray. Valerie nodded in agreement as she continued, the research details are in Kuroka's memory and diary, which is what you need to obtain, and Shirin's hairclip. Issei nodded as he responded with a smile. I see, well, good job, Valerie. Valerie responded with a smile of her own, as Ingvild asked again, so what is the plan? I will talk with Malak and the others, I think we have found some leads to something that would even surpass the destructive potential of the strongest Longinus. Issei spoke with a dark grin on his face, as the girls had a feeling that something good was going to happen. He knew things will be getting intense in the aftermath. Scene change. Malak's base, 12 p.m. Issei was discussing along with his generals upon what he needed to be done. Malak was looking into the files that Issei had displayed them, with him speaking, I see, so you want us to capture her? Yes I do, you must capture them alive, we need some hosts for the Malabranch. Issei spoke with a sinister grin, as Vader asked, but will we get enough hosts? I mean, we are going to need 12 hosts to wield these things. I know we already have a few candidates in mind, we can use Akeno, Asia, Gasper, Penemu, Valerie and Yusaka, that should be 6 of the 12 hosts, then we can use Kaneko and Kuroka as well, once we turn them into sleeper agents. The generals nodded, they have found 8 of the 12 hosts, as Issei then continued, we can use Penemu and Yusaka, who would take 2 of the Malabranch each given their power and abilities. I see, but then how will we get the last 2 hosts? Kalani asked. He understood the tactical prowess of his supreme leader, he understood the powers and abilities of Yusaka and Penemu, allowing them to wield 2 of the Malabranch, however there were still 2 more remaining. Additionally, what concerned him was the Malabranch's personality. He had read documents that were found by Issei and given to him for analysis, where they were describing them as extremely crazed combatants. That alone gave a lot of concern to the tactical and genius general of the droid army. How will Issei manage to control and get them on their side? And how will we control their abilities? Like the documents even stated that the original Satans explicitly stated to not unseal them, especially their leader Malakota. How do you plan on dealing with them? Issei looked at Kalani as he responded, that is why I want the research, it will act as a base to start with, the research that Kaneko's hairclip and Kuroka's mind contain. The research left behind by the Nibirius clan is not enough. The foolish new 4 Satans did not even try to find this research or investigate anything back then, otherwise Kuroka wouldn't have been astray. Issei ended with a frustrated sigh. He frowned on lackadaisical examination that the investigation team had done in that case. Would you two be able to capture the two girls? Issei looked at Malak as he responded with a smile, leave that to us. Vader nodded in agreement as the two teleported out of there, leaving Grievous and Kalani alone. As Issei speaks, Grievous, get these materials, this will help in a project I will be working on soon enough, make sure to get a ton of them. Issei sent some information to Grievous as the droid general spoke, leave it to me. Grievous soon teleported out of there, leaving Issei and Kalani alone. As Issei spoke, Kalani, we will be heading to the Nibiru's territory soon enough for our research, let us head there. As you wish, Lord Issei. Scene change. Nibiru's territory, 1:15 p.m. Issei and Kalani were reading several reports that belonged to the Nibiru's research. He was reading the Super Devil research that was present in the room. It was well located inside an invisible seal, which was the reason why the investigation team failed to find some research about the Super Devil research, or at least a small portion of it. This is really something. Supreme Leader Kalani spoke. Even if the information is not enough, they could significantly boost the strength of their droids, making them even more resistant to magic, and could potentially increase their firepower. I told you the Nibiru's clan had some interesting and nice secrets. They were able to work in secretion for a very long time, and even now still are undetected. The only reason we even came to know of this was because of the information Valerie was able to stumble in the Lucifuge castle. Let's continue to research. Issei and Kalani kept reading the reports that were left behind by Nibiru's. He saw a certain report that caught his eye as he started to read it out loud. 12th November 1517, research of Malebranche. The Malebranche. Each of the Malebranche were living weapons made by our great Satans and leaders, Lucifer, Leviathan, Asmodeus and Beelzebub. They are a direct counterpart to the 12 Longinus, each depicting their own powers and abilities. They were Elicino derived from Arlecchino, the Harlequin, Barbarici a curly beard, Cagnazzo a nasty dog, Alcabrina possibly Grey Stomper a frost trampler, Siriato wild hog, Dragagnazzo nasty sneering dragon, Farfarello possibly goblin, Graphiacane, dog scratcher or scratcher dog, Libicaco possibly Libyan hothead or windy, Malakota, the leader evil tail, Rubicante possibly red-faced terror, and a reference to Conte de Gabrielli, who is Podesta of Florence condemned Dante to exile, Scarmiglian possibly troublemaker or disheveled. Each of these Longinus were a direct yet evil and opposite counterpart. For instance, Dragagnazzo is a direct counterpart to the boosted gear, or Calcabrina is a direct counterpart was in reference to absolute demise. They have similar powers, however it was because of their personality. We decided to seal them away. Issei continued reading the report. Just recently, we managed to have contact with the Malebranche, or more specifically, Barbaricia and Scarmiglian, however they were not interested in our new era. Despite this, we wanted to convince them to work with us. Scarmiglian was easy to bring to our side and gave some power to Damadosu's Ercole Asmodeus, transforming him into the Fly Chimera. He was only sadly defeated when Surziches transformed into his true form. In the aftermath, we decided to reseal them. Issei stopped reading and looked at Kalani as he spoke. That is really something, and if I am correct, Surziches was a natural-born super devil, right? Yeah, he was so powerful. Record stated that he destroyed his own room with his power of destruction when he was just a baby. He could disintegrate or deform surrounding furniture and decoration without a trace. There is a reason why he is in the top 10 strongest beings in the world. Kalani noted this as he spoke. So how do we locate them? I will look for more records. It was not present in the castles of the 4 Satans when I asked you to check it out. Kalani remembered on how easy it was to infiltrate the underworld since he was not known to step out for war. Unlike the other 3 generals, he gave orders from the sidelines and used his intelligence to destroy his enemies. Issei and Kalani looked out for more records as they were constantly reading the Malebranche and their abilities. They were amazed by each of their abilities and what they were capable of. He looked at Kalani who nodded in agreement as he continued looking for any report that would bring a detailed location of the Malebranche. He eventually found something. Supreme Leader, look. Issei turned around to see an additional report as he read it loud. 23rd December, 1590, Malebranche location. We lost the war. Those false Satans have taken up our place in the underworld government, taking up the place on who our real leaders should have been, but hope is not lost yet. I, Zarama Nibiros, shall take the revenge of our fallen comrades. I shall not betray the Satans like that woman from Lucifuge, Graphia Lucifuge, has done. I will take vengeance. Issei and Kalani looked at each other as he continued to read. The Malebranche were being secretly transported to my research facility. What happened to Lord Damadosu was something I could salvage. His transformation is something I could research upon. There is still a hope for fighting back. We can still defeat those false Satans. The Malebranche is hidden in the lower chamber of my personal bedroom. My descendant, or anyone that wishes to destroy the current 4 Satans, the hatch is present in the center of the bedroom, where my bed is located. Once you move the bed, it has low-level concealment magic, remove that and you will find it, open the hatch and enter it. Once you do, keep traveling in one direction straight and you will find several statues, those are the sealed versions of the Malebranche. The report closed down as a message showed up. Good luck to whoever is reading this message. The Malebranche are beings of strength, they won't work with you, but if you somehow are able to convince them, then you will have a powerful asset on your side. But please honor my final wish, destroy those false Satans. Issei had a sinister smile, he understood what he had to do. Kalani looked at Issei and asked, Supreme Leader. Yeah, nothing much, I just know what I need to do. You also, right Kalani? Kalani nodded in agreement as he spoke, indeed, all we have to do is head to the bedroom and remove the concealment magic, right? That's it is so easy. Shall we begin, Supreme Leader? Issei nodded as he spoke, indeed, there is no time to waste, follow me Kalani. Kalani nodded as Issei spoke, with a sinister grin, Wells Arama, you are in luck, cause I am going to fulfill your last desire, regardless of what you think of me, I have already destroyed 2 of the 4 Satans, that being Ajuka Beelzebub and Seraphol Leviathan, however when I am done, the last 2 will fall as well, I hope you are watching me. Scene change. Issei and Kalani were in the bedroom that the Nibiru's leader used to use, it was described as royally as most devil bedrooms are designed, with utter royalty. Issei did not understand why such a big bed was needed for just 1 or 2 people. Maybe he was born in a middle-class family, hence he never truly understood that. Extravagant as always, why am I not surprised by this? Issei shook his head, he remembered some foul experiences when he was with the Gremory family, he shook his head wanting to forget it, since now was not the time to do so. He looked at the bedroom and used magic to move the bedroom by the side, he removed the rug underneath it and saw there was nothing there. No wonder the investigation was under hold, nobody would even know that it was right in front of us. Issei dispelled the concealment magic revealing a hatch, he opened it and entered inside the hatch to find out where they are. He motioned Kalani to enter the hatch, to which the droid general agreed to do so. They both saw the corridor and knew this was it. This was where they would be finding the Malebranche. Interesting, it feels like years since anyone has visited this place. Kalani spoke his thoughts to Issei who nodded in agreement. This place was hardly, if not at all maintained. They knew one thing, that this would be a long walk if they needed to get what they want. They kept traveling across the area, where they found several rocks and other uneven terrain. They kept walking in a straight direction, as guided by the report left behind by Arama. They kept walking towards the door straight at the center. He looked at Kalani, as he could sense the immense demonic magic that was being released from it. He looked at Issei and spoke. My calculations state that there is immense power from the other side of the door. I think this is where the Malebranche is located. Well. Issei had a smile on his face and spoke with a grin, let's not keep the folks waiting on the other side, let's see what they have to say for ourselves. Kalani nodded as Issei used his strength to push the doors. As they looked around to see 12 statues, they knew this was the Malebranche. He could see some of them were animal or creature-based statues, while some were male or even female-based statues, as someone announced, startling the audience. Red Dragon Emperor. The voice seemed feminine, both Kalani and Issei were confused by this, however they soon turned their attention to the sealed statue. It almost seemed to look like a Valkyrie, as the statue boomed in response, so you managed to find out where I am? That is good, that is amazing, I sense some great power in you. Issei looked at the statue and spoke seriously, you must be Malekota, right? The leader of the Malebranche never expected you were a woman. So you figured it out, huh? You are not the first to say that, Red Dragon Emperor, so what brings you here? Do you wish for a fight, or are you here for something else? My allies have all been sealed away thanks to our creators fearing our power, and if you are wondering how I am able to speak, my power is unable to be completely sealed, allowing me to converse, but not move. Malekota responded with a sigh, as Issei nodded in understanding, as she soon asked, so why are you here? Simple, I want you and the rest of the Malebranche to work for me, I wish to destroy the factions and the faction leaders, and I can tell you since most of your brothers and sisters love to fight, you can fight for me, so what do you say, are you in? Issei asked the Malebranche leader, to which Malekota only laughed, she then spoke in a taunting manner, tempting offer, but even I know the limitations of a Longinus wielder, you couldn't possibly take down the gods, and thus, I will have to pass this offer. Think you can beat me, let's put a deal, you in? Malekota seemed amused as she responded, what are the stakes? If I win, you will work with me unconditionally without exception and will not betray me no matter what happens, but if I lose, I will unseal the rest of your kin and you can wreak havoc across the underworld, deal? I am in, but how will we fight, are you planning to? Issei cuts her off and speaks, I will be unsealing you right now. Issei looks at Kalani and speaks, make a barrier, I do not want to deal with those 2 morons right now, or their bands of armies. Leave it to me, Supreme Leader Kalani started to generate a barrier as Issei unsealed the malabranch, as in front of him was a woman. She was described to be a beautiful young woman with a voluptuous figure, long pure white hair that extends to her back with bangs that cover her forehead. The left side of her bang slants to the right, while the right side of her bang slants slightly to the left. She also has beautiful clear crystal blue eyes. She wore a white combat dress akin to a bikini with a breastplate, a garter belt on her waist with features on its side, a crown-like bonnet which has white feathers on both sides, armored shoulder pads that have a short white cape, and a silver necklace around her neck that is sort of shaped like a ribbon in the middle. Issei was left speechless seeing Malakota's appearance, as she spoke with a chuckle, now, Red Dragon, my appearance is not something you should be witnessing, or you will be eliminated, now take this. Malakota responded with 2 slashes with her blades, causing Issei to dodge with relative ease. Well then don't disappoint me, Balance Breaker. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Issei transformed into his Balance Breaker as he dashed towards Malakota in a blinding speed, while holding Mortis blade in his hands. He slashed Malakota, who blocked with her blades, as she commented, I must admit, you are quite the fighter. You have no idea. Fusion Balance Breaker. Issei added the Balance Breaker of the Divine Dividing as the boosted gear announced. Vanishing Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Malakota was taken aback, 2 sacred gears at once. This was interesting. She knew that her power was strong enough to deal with him. She wondered what else she was capable of. The excitement of the battle was getting to her. She grinned as she responded, truly impeccable Red Dragon Emperor. You can use the White Dragon's power as well. Now then, I don't need to hold back. Malakota was quick as she unleashed several quick slashes. It was so fast that Issei barely could see it. His instincts allowed him to see through and dodge them. As before Issei could react, Malakota approached him and slashed him with the blades. It did minimal damage to the armor, as Issei mentally spoke to Drake. Drake repair the armor. Drake responded with an affirmative tone, leave it to me, partner, give this negative copy hell. Issei mentally nodded as Malakota constantly tried to slash Issei. As Issei deflected her slashes with the mortis blade, he waited for the right time for her to slow down. He sensed a weakness in her strikes and aimed a strike aimed at her chest. Malakota gritted her teeth in pain as the wound dealt to her by the blade seemed to be holy due to her sizzling wound where Issei had slashed her. Despite this, she was happy that she had found a worthy foe. She smiled as she started to fly in the air. Issei used his sacred gears in tandem as he saw her generating a beam blast that was enough to even wipe out a very strong ultimate class devil out of existence. DCH let's end this. Issei used his 2 Longinus in tandem as they announced boost divide 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 boost divide. The beam blast was reduced to nothingness, causing Issei's body to surge with aura. Malakota herself was left speechless and awed by what she had witnessed. Her power was easily nullified and taken away from her and given to Issei. She smirked, knowing that her opponent was extremely strong, far eclipsing her in terms of powers. She didn't even know what else he was capable, and that alone made her smirk. She was happy that her future wielder would be strong enough to handle her power without problem. I'd say, you are pretty strong, so what will you do now? Issei did not respond as he disappeared from sight. His immense speed was staggering as she desperately tried to block her strikes. Issei knew that she was a living weapon, so the only way to exhaust her was to make sure she expended all of her power. Issei kept striking her at her parts where there was no armor. She tried to block, understanding that she was only giving him time to respond. Issei was elusive. He avoided her blades infused with demonic energy. Eventually she had a different opening as Issei slashed her at her stomach. The slash was bigger than before as she held her wound in pain. The wound soon seared, making her even more as it blazed even more, with Malakota screaming in pain. Ahaya. Issei decided that now was the time to end the fight as his chest cavity opened up, revealing as a whitish and red beam that started to emanate. He fired at the weakened Malakota as he exclaimed, Longinus Smasher. Issei sent the beam towards Malakota as she looked in horror. She took a direct hit, sending her flying towards the room wall, resulting in a massive hole on the wall which was high up in the air. Malakota was completely battered. She was bleeding from several locations from her body, and most of her armor was shattered, revealing her cleavage and her underclothes, aside from the wounds that were created courtesy of Issei's slashes, which had increased even more. Malakota was barely conscious, however despite this, she gave a soft smile, not a maniacal grin or a smirk. She had found a worthy ally, or perhaps even more. She fell down from the wall as Issei dashed to catch her. He was able to catch her in a bridal style. She looked at Issei and gave a smile, with her speaking in a gentle manner, you did it, the malabranch is now yours, Red Dragon Emperor. Malakota closed her eyes as Issei flew downstairs while holding her down. Kalani soon walked towards Issei as Issei puts her down. As Issei looked at Kalani and responded, "You are not going to say anything." "Not really, that was an amazing fight against the leader of the Malabranch, I have no words." Kalani added his own statements as Issei deplored himself and settled down for a while. He looked at the rest of the Malabranch, everything was now theirs and their leader is with them. That alone made Issei smile in happiness. An ally? No, an entire legion of powerful beings have officially joined them. So what should we do with the others? Should we unseal the others and prove our strength like we did with Malakota? Issei shook his head and spoke, "No, Malakota told me herself that she is on our side, now let us wait for her to wake up." A few minutes later, Malakota woke up, she looked at Issei and gave a smile. Issei then removed his jacket and gave it to her. "Wear this." "Why?" Malakota asked with a look of surprise. She got up as her breasts jiggled, causing Issei to have a red tint as Issei spoke while looking away. "Look down." Malakota looked down and also had a blush. She may be a living weapon, she was a woman regardless, she's still a woman. She took the jacket and wore it. She gave a smile as she kneeled and bowed in front of Issei and spoke, "I am yours, my lord. But very good, so from what I have heard, you can command the Malabranch, right?" Malakota looked at him and gave a nod as she spoke with a smile. She then spoke, yes, I can do just that, allow me, my lord." Malakota stood up and chanted her power in the tip of her palms as she started to convert and unseal the statues. As they were converted into orbs, she transferred her memories to the orbs as she looked at them with a smile. "Now my warriors, we have a new master." Master Malakota looked at Issei as he gave his name, Issei Haidu. Issei Haidu, the Red Dragon Emperor, he defeated me, and now he commands me, he commands all of us. We have a new war to win, a war against gods and satans, beings that far eclipse that of the last time we have fought in. Issei Haidu is our king, our dragon king. No, he is our dragon god, we serve him. As his loyal warriors, Malakota looked at Issei with a smile as he saw the orbs. He then spoke, "Welcome to my army, warriors sealed by the satans out of fear. I usher you, a new one final war. You all will be having one host each. Some of you will be present in the same host due to their power being extremely high, not on par with the 4 original great satans, but that can be changed if need be. You all will be fighting against beings that will satisfy your lust for battle, I can assure you that." The Malabranch cheered towards Issei, chanting high praise for their new supreme leader. Malakota had a small smile, happy that she has found a worthy partner to work with. Kalani looked proudly at the scene, as he knew more allies have been working with has increased. "Now we begin our next phase of our plan, we still need 2 more hosts that would take on the Malabranch." Kalani and Malakota looked at Issei, as Kalani suggested, "May I suggest the 2 girls with Bale?" "You mean, Kusha Abaddon and Coriana Andreelphus?" Kalani responded with a nod, "Indeed, they will be perfect for the hosts of the last 2 Malabranch." "Are they? Devils from the war?" Issei responded to Malakota, who had asked her the question. "Yes and no, well, Coriana is from the 72 pillars, Kusha is not, she is an extra demon. Additionally, Coriana is also a half-blood devil, she is not exactly what a pure-blooded devil is." I see. Malakota did not seem satisfied with the hosts that would holster her warriors, as Issei looked at her and tried to convince her, "Oh, you needn't worry, your warriors will be using those 2 as their vessels. If anything, they would be nothing short of skins that you will be wearing, and I can enhance their powers if you want me to. You needn't worry. Your Malabranch will be satisfied by the host bodies I will be giving them." "Alright, if you say so, my lord." Malakota spoke with a respectful smile. She had trust and faith in Issei, as he looked at Kalani and spoke, "Kalani, meet up with Grievous, tell him to send the materials and hosts needed in the project I will be developing." Out of curiosity, Malakota asked, "What is this project you speak of?" "I will tell you later, first, we must capture Kusha and Coriana alive, so tell me, Malakota, are you ready for your first mission?" Malakota bowed in response and spoke with a smile, "It will be an honor to serve you, my lord." Scene change. Vale Castle, 7:30 p.m. 2 women were walking towards the house. The first was an attractive and curvy young woman with long, wavy blonde hair and red eyes. She wears a red business suit with purple accents. This was Coriana Andreelphus. The second was described to be as a beautiful girl with blonde hair tied in a ponytail and green eyes. She wears a costume that is open in the chest area, partially revealing her large breasts and part of her stomach. The costume has a section cut off in her arms revealing her shoulders. She wears a belt and long trousers. This was Kusha Abaddon. The girls were devastated seeing that Seirg's health was just a sliver of his former well-being. The attack on him from heaven left him barely alive. They were desperately trying to keep him alive at this point. "So Kusha, how are you feeling?" Kusha looked at Coriana and responded, "Not good. Seirg is still in recovery from Malak's invasion of the heavens, and worse, Haidu still refuses to help us." Kusha spoke with a devastated tone, as Coriana responded sadly, "There is nothing we can do, he has already had enough of us and wants us to die." We never cared for him, so he now does not care for us. But Kusha was about to retort when, suddenly the dimensions around them changed. They were in a whole new world. As they looked around, they were in a platform with nothing but an endless level of platform. Where are we? Coriana spoke with fear as Kusha took charge and responded, "Stay on guard, Coriana, this could be the droid factions doing." As the girls looked around, Kusha sensed a massive magic coming right towards Coriana as she rushed towards her, starting the Bishop of the Baal Peerage as she tried her best to push her away. Away from their vision, it was Issei that had come in with surprisingly high speeds, to which none of the girls could detect. His intention was to finish the battle as fast as possible. Issei stood on the other side as the girls looked at him completely startled. He then spoke with a smile, "Not bad." He turned his attention to the girls and gave them a sinister smile. Soon enough, someone walked beside him, who was revealed to be Malakota herself. The girls were confused as to why Issei and this unknown woman were trying to attack him. As Issei spoke, "You take on Coriana and you know what to do." "Indeed, my lord." Issei dashed towards Kusha and sent her flying. She was then taken on by Issei, while Coriana watched in horror and helplessly when she shouted. "Kusha!" Coriana shouted as she was ambushed by Malakota. Her only goal was to bring her in alive, as she used two blades to strike her, where she barely blocked with her ice magic. Malakota had a smirk seeing this, as she kept slashing towards Coriana. Her intention was to bring him alive, which was more challenging. However, if there was one thing that one must know about the leader of the Malabranch, is that she loved challenges. Malakota was quick. She quickly fired a demonic magic-infused firestorm. As Coriana took a direct hit, she screamed in pain as she was being burnt alive. Malakota reduced the flames as she needed her alive. Coriana soon passed out as Malakota spoke with a sigh, "All too easy." Back with Issei, he constantly was punching her over and over again, with Kusha taking heavy blows. Despite this, she was able to retain herself. This was because of her queen piece. Kusha knew she stood no chance against Issei in any way. He was the same person that had killed Satan Ajuka Beelzebub without any mercy or empathy. He looked at Kusha, who had fear and confusion in her eyes as Issei spoke. "You must be wondering why I am doing this, right? You see, the one who is standing in front of you is the one responsible for your love's condition." Kusha widened her eyes as she spoke with tears falling from her eyes as she asked, "Why? Why do you want us to suffer, even today?" "I think you know why, right Kusha? Your actions led to this, if anything. But worry not, I have some use for you." Kusha widened her eyes when she realized this, and she became angry. As she covered her body, she glared at Issei with anger and hatred in her eyes. Issei only shook his head and responded, "If you think I want you for your body, then you are wrong. You may be beautiful, but you are not my type. I have some other plans for you." Kusha lost her anger and became fearful as she asked, "What plans?" "Simple, you see, Malakota was not the only Malabranch that has been released. There are 11 others. I have sleeper agents that have already infiltrated the factions, and I want you and..." Issei looks at Malakota, who had a smile on her face. She was carrying Coriana like a sack of potatoes, with her body being burnt. Issei then asked, "Is she dead?" "No, like you asked me to. I left her alive, but unconscious. However, what would have happened if she would have died?" Issei shook his head and spoke, "We would find another replacement. There is no need to worry about that." Understood. Kusha looked in horror as she knew what Issei plans to do with her. He wants her to turn against her own master, her own lover. She was not going to let that happen, no matter what. She would rather die than join someone like him, someone she viewed as a traitor. "I would rather die than join a monster like you damn traitor." Issei shook his head and spoke, "You don't have a choice, Kusha. You will join me, regardless of what your choice is." Issei removed the Alpheka tyrant as Kusha could feel the holy energy coming out from it as she asked, Do you intend to torture me?" "No, you see Kusha, I have quite the peculiar power of making people join me, and you will find out very soon." Issei generated 3 nails from the Alpheka tyrant as he threw it at Kusha. "You will soon think differently once these nails hit you." Issei threw the nails at her neck and stomach, causing her to have a look of horror. She saw the nails went inside her body as he spoke. Sweet dreams. Kusha started to lose her conscience as she could feel her mind being rewritten. This was an enhanced version of the nails that would allow him to control a person completely without hesitation. Kusha could see herself losing control of her own body as tears fell down from her eyes. The nails could completely rewrite a certain section of a person, from memories to personalities to even creating alter egos. He decided to rewrite Kusha's memories. She soon collapsed on the ground as Issei held the Longinus in his arms. He looked at Malakota, who was on the edge seeing the holy Longinus. He assured her with a smile, "You needn't worry, I won't use it against you." Malakota looked at him and nodded as Issei instructed her to put the body down as she asked, "Is this also a Longinus?" Issei looked at her and nodded, "Yes, one of the new 5 Longinus have recently manifested. This is Alpheka Tyrant. To put it simply, it allows me to control people and bring them to my side." I see, this is quite interesting. Malakota was quite interested in this new era, as he did the same for Koreana as well. He then spoke, "It will only take a few seconds for the nails effects to kick in. I'd say we should probably head back to the Nibiru's territory to start preparing for the project I had spoke about." Malakota nodded as she asked, "My lord, may I know what this project you are going to make?" "I have recreated many sacred gears, new longinus even, but I wanted to do something more, create something more powerful, something more superior than anything I have ever created. That was my thoughts, and now, I shall begin the creation of my first super longinus." Malakota widened her eyes at first, as she started to take interest. She soon asked, "Is that why you need my and my Malabranch's power?" Yes I do." Malakota nodded in understanding, as she then asked with a smile, "Do you have a name for this super longinus, my lord?" "Indeed," Issei spoke with a sinister grin as he looked at the now unconscious bodies of Kusha and Koreana, as he responded with a happy tone, "The name of my super longinus is the Death Star." Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.